Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Alchemical Serenity, leading you down the path, through the woods, across the fields, towards the beautiful beach where we can sit a while listening to the waves and ponder over the life you were born to lead and finding the most authentic you in a non-judgmental, everyone welcome, sit around the bonfire on the beach. I'm Carolyn, and I've been on my spiritual path since I was a teenager, so now that's about 40 years ago. I came back this time around to help people find their paths and to answer their questions. I'm a regression therapist, and I use different modalities and spirit guides and my connection to my higher self. I'm also a practicing Druid witch, and I follow the natural seasons. So today on this podcast, I'm looking at what is a spiritual journey, path, routine, or that nudging wake-up call we sometimes get. And I get asked this a few times on this subject matter. So really, we're here on a journey. We are each on our own individual path that is not completely determined for us. So depending on what you believe in, or if you've got a faith, we're here for more than we think. We're not here by chance. We are here because we choose to return to learn something, be part of an experience, or to teach something to someone else. We're sentient beings with a higher level of consciousness that never ends, and certainly not at our human death. But not all of us realise this, because as we walk through our lives, we get locked into ego and self, which then becomes more important than the original plan, and we lose the connection to who, what and why we're here. Now, this happens to all of us, including me. I often fall off the spiritual wagon and find myself in a ditch thinking, how the heck did I get here this time? And I'm sure my spirit guides may just sigh and wait for me to clamber back on board and grab hold of the reins again. So if you're wondering how I know about the path we were born to lead and how we get here, what it's all about, this has happened through my regression clients. They've told me this as we've regressed back and we've talked about different things that they have found out on things that they have seen. And it's simple as that. And at some point I will do a podcast on regression. So what is spirituality? I feel there are three definitions to this word. One is religious beliefs, two, individualistic beliefs, and three, materialistic beliefs. So do you follow a religion? Have you your own individual path? Or is your way that of the new handbag and matching shoes? Spirituality is an individual pattern or routine that suits you and your way of life. I will say I have tried all of the above, and my days of matching shoes and handbags are pretty much over. I'm more of a wellies and wheelbarrow kind of gal. And I also did do religion too at one time. So going back to finding your path, you might already feel a shift in consciousness or a change in not only your vibrational energy levels, but also those around you. You may feel off centre, unbalanced, not responding to the world as you used to. This is because our collective vibration energy is changing. And with the experiences you have in life, your energy fields are also changing for you personally. And because you are also connected to the collective energy of all, you'll feel the shift even more. So maybe friends whom you've spent many hours with over the years could be drifting away. You don't have time to see them as much as you used to. And you may have found yourself a new tribe to sit with. It's affecting all of us, whether we recognise it or not. I don't know whether you're like me and sort of you say, well, wow, didn't that week, month, year go faster than the last one? It does seem like it's a bit of an illusion, but it's not. We are, in fact, speeding up. Now, this is probably starting to sound a little bit woo-woo. And if you're thinking, oh, God, no, she's watching too many YouTube videos and she's completely lost the plot. No, it's okay. I haven't. I knew this before even YouTube because I just kept happening. These things just kept happening to me. It was all different ways. It was like the universe saying, oi, it's still happening. Stop ignoring it. Start working with it. We're here, we're waiting, come along, join us. And I'd go off and do something else. And then I'd drop off that wagon. But that's okay, because not everything has to be about being on a spiritual path. So if right now you aren't feeling it, but you're listening in and something has sparked your curiosity, that's a great place to start on your road. And guess what? Your energy field has just changed with that thought pattern. If you're here because you know, and deep down you've been feeling something going on, then let's all take a bit of a deeper look into this spiritual stuff. At some point, most of us will experience some sort of spiritual call. Now, this could be anything from a simple change in lifestyle to a full-blown change in path. Sometimes this comes as a sudden awakening via physical or mental trauma, where something has happened to you or a loved one and you start to question why. Or perhaps it's gentle nudges, questioning why you're here, what purpose. Certain things keep happening to you. Why have I seen signs or numbers? What's going on? Deja vu. Perhaps you've been treading the job ladder and constantly moving around jobs and just feeling completely unfulfilled. Or maybe you've been in a job long term and all of a sudden you think there must be something more to life than continuously doing this same job. Sometimes we find we're on a path when we lose a loved one. The grief and pain in our hearts and the loss of their energy around us is overwhelming. We can't get over it. We question what happens to them and how we are going to move forward. We look for signs of them contacting us and we desperately want to hear that they're okay. But this is our loss, it's our grief, and rather than fuel that grief in a negative way, we can turn it around and find that the path we are searching for could also be our salvation and help us to heal. And it also helps our loved one's energy to heal, and ultimately it heals the planet. I've been asked on several occasions about people, though, who live their lives in a negative energy and why, or for those, who commit murder and other atrocities. I'm not going to go into this subject matter now. It's too deep, and it's something I prefer to talk about to a person when they're actually in my regression practice. The internet is packed full of websites offering spiritual guidance, from religions to mystery schools using energy, crystals, herbs, and retreats to help ease our mind, body and soul. It can be completely overwhelming, and rather than finding a path to walk down and see if it's a subject that sparks an interest, it just fogs up our thought patterns with too much information and can send us running in the opposite direction, totally frustrated. My advice when seeking a path is to take it slowly. Don't rush in, because you need to get to know you. Do you really know who you are? Finding your path should be a way of self-discovery, finding a connection to something you love, finding out what makes you tick, what makes you happy, sad, angry. Now, if you've got a journal, go grab it, put this on pause, bring your pen, and then when you've sorted that out, we will continue. Okay, got your journal? Right. 3 columns on your page. In the first column, we're going to write down a set of questions, but leave enough space in the next 2 columns to write down just a few notes or a few answers. There are only 6 simple questions here, but you can add more if you wish to. So first of all, write down what makes me happy. Next question is what makes me sad, what makes me angry, what's my favourite colour, where do I feel something is wrong or right, like a sixth sense about something. So is it do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your heart? And then the last question is, what do you feel more drawn to? Is there a religion, something more broader or individual to you? Or find you the nearest shoe shop? So you can answer all of these later on after the podcast. Then ask yourself what makes your inner child happy. Where do you feel the most connected to your heart and something you absolutely love? It could be walking in nature, cooking, baking, making things, being creative, painting, walking up a hill or a mountain, whatever makes your heart sing, but also what makes your inner child sing. What did you love doing as a child that you probably wouldn't dream of doing now, like riding down the hill on your bike far too fast, messing about in the sea, jumping up and down in muddy puddles, climbing trees? Look at those set of questions again above that you've just written in your journal and write the answers in the third column as you, the child. So your second column would be you now, and your third column will be you as the child. What did you love, if you can answer any of those questions as a child? So finding that thing and that feeling is opening up your energy that we all suppressed during growing up and moving into adult life, because adulting takes up so much energy. You're a partner, a parent, caregiver. You might be running a business, working on many other frustrating elements that stop us being the child. And then bang, something reminds us of who we are. Or we hit a wall and we hit burnout and we need to reconnect back to who we originally were. Mind, body, spirit work together. And if one of these is off balance, then it will manifest not only in one part, but sometimes in all three. So pay attention to finding the time to sit and be you. Meditate, take some time out, find some lovely gentle music to listen to, and reconnect and remember. Now, there's no right or wrong answer to the questions that I've just asked, because all your answers are going to be about you in the now. However, you may want to revisit these questions, say in 6 months' time, as you have travelled down your path a little bit further, and see if anything has changed. Maybe those shoes will be on Vinted or eBay. As a slight aside to what we've just been doing, I remember a spiritual surge took place in the mid-90s. Reiki and Feng Shui were just becoming popular, and we started to see more of these subjects on daytime television as it began to open up its doors. I remember a program where a member of the public allowed 3 spiritual experts into their house to see what they could do to help. There was some problem going on, whether it of energy-based, maybe the family were all arguing, or somebody couldn't get a new job, or wanted some form of advancement and needed some advice. So they maybe get a psychic or a feng shui expert, or maybe a crystal therapist. Now, these people hadn't met the house owner any time before, and they knew nothing about them, and each one would give a reading of the person who owned the house as they sort of stood in it or they wandered around, and see what advice they could give. Now, the house owner would be behind the scenes with the presenter of the programme listening in, and then they had the choice of which of the 3 to meet and work with. Now, I can't remember the name of the show, so if anybody, saw it or can remember it, just leave me a message somewhere down in the comments, because I really can't remember what it was. It was actually quite good. It was quite interesting to see what these people came up with. So this type of program became really popular. The brakes were coming off and the wheel was slowly turning, and mind, body and spirit events and weekend fairs became really popular. I attended quite a few myself, and I met some wonderful enlightened people. There were so many modalities became known to us through different television programs and attending mind, body and spirit fairs. And then the internet took hold, and more businesses, as they all had access to websites. There were blogs being written, and then vlogs came along. And this spiritual energy just kicked up another level as people realised that they too could learn something they could use for either themselves or if they wished to help others. Reiki being one of those modalities. If you were part of the Reiki revolution, did you get your Reiki 2 practitioner and never use it again? I know so many people who got to Reiki 2 because they were going to help everybody, and they never used it because I think it was a confidence thing. Most people sort of said that, they didn't have the confidence to use it. However, before we go further, I just need to say it doesn't matter if you never used it, because it's always there and always will be. So if you're wondering now whether you need to go and have a retune, you need to pay somebody to tune you in again, you don't. That's just a money-making exercise by somebody out there, and you don't fall for that one. Just meditate, sit and connect, and it will be there for you. You can find the symbols you need online if you want to look at them again. But if you meditate on them and open up your higher self to receive them again, it's just like riding a bike. They are always there. Okay, I digressed a little bit there. Let's get back to the plot. What next? How do you know you're on a path, or you're seeking something spiritual, or you're just looking for that spiritual routine? There's a few ways to confirm if you're already on your path. Firstly, you might be feeling a bit lost. You know you're on a path, but you're struggling to find where you need to be. You might have been looking around already. That could be anything, with jobs. But really, it's more, you've got a purpose in life, or you must be thinking like, there's more to this. I've got to find that right something for me. You've got something to do. Maybe you thought that job that you took was going to be that job for life, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, no, this isn't fulfilling me. You might see some strange synchronicities. For example, certain spiritual things may be a mind-body-spirit event keeps showing up in your local newspaper, or on your social feeds, or if you're, belong to a spotted in your local area on Facebook. Things like that might show up a little bit more. Another one would be passing a crystal shop. You've walked past that crystal shop for months on end, and you can look at the crystals in the window and think, oh gosh, they're so pretty. I don't know anything about them, but I quite like the colours of them. And then you walk past it another time, and one of them really stands out, and it's kind of like waving at you, if metaphorically. Those sort of synchronicities that you start to see more of, and it's, if you can find those, and rather than ignore them, grab hold of them in kind of just a sense of, right, okay, I accept that I have just seen an amethyst in that window waving at me, and then carry on, because that will change your energy field. You might feel a sense of there's been an older time or a past life, but you're not sure what. Things might be interesting to you about a certain time frame. You also might find you're more sensitive and perhaps even fragile to things that you weren't in your past. Things like winding you up a little bit more, or you might feel very sensitive to certain things. Even food, even allergies to things that you never felt allergic to in the past. Many things that you once valued are also now completely meaningless. Those shoes and the matching handbag, yep, put them on Vinted. Not interested in those anymore. They were very nice, enjoyed them, cluttering up my life. I don't need this. Daydreaming. Dreams are showing you a new path, and that again is a sense of deja vu. There might be something that you keep going round and round in a circle, and you keep bumping into the same thing all the time, or that sense of feeling that, I have been here before. Maybe you're going round and round in relationships with the wrong people. You are attached energy-wise to the wrong people, and it doesn't feel right, but you can't quite step off the roundabout yet. In the olden days, before the spiritual surge of the 90s, it was hard to seek out a teacher or a guru or someone who was enlightened enough, and many people were turning towards paganism and Wicca, as there were books available to read with the odd subscription magazine. They weren't particularly easy to find. The pagan movement was building, and I remember buying my first set of tarot cards when I was 15 years old. because they absolutely fascinated me, and they were the one thing you could usually get hold of. They weren't ever in a spiritual shop. They just I think I found mine just lying on they were just in a normal shop. I can't even remember where they were, and it was the oddest of places to find them. And I thought, oh, I like them, and that's how they found me. I still have them today, along with many others that have caught my eye, and bought them, very much like people buying shoes and handbags. You could sometimes find booklets available, advertised in sort of small advert section at the back of a magazine, and you had to order it by post. And now, that was those days when you had to write a cheque and having to sign something with a pen, and we then had to wait for the cheque to arrive at the publishers. Then it had to clear, and then the books were then posted out. Oh, the excitement of the postman arriving or coming home from work to a packet that you'd sent for 4 weeks ago. These booklets would be on some form of spirituality, perhaps how to read tarot cards or talking about spirit guides. And I ended up down my local library borrowing every Doris Stokes book I could find about connecting with the dead people when I was 17. But there weren't that many books available to read for free. Of course, thankfully now we have the internet, but as I've said before, this can be overwhelming, and once you have visited one site, you're bombarded with sponsored adverts across all your socials, which can be very distracting, and believe me, I know. Only the other day I went off on a total tangent following a sponsored link and ended up down a rabbit hole. Now, usually I follow these things out of curiosity for something I might be researching for a future podcast, and I end up completely distracted. My suggestion would be, if you're looking to find your path, is to start with a meditation. Now, if you're already familiar with meditation, this is a good way to start, and you can ask for guidance from your higher self, angels, if you believe in and want to work with angels. You may believe in God, ask your God, your goddess, whatever you believe in. Just remember, what works for one person or for a friend might not always work for you. I read a very good book called The Life You Were Born to Lead by Dan Millman. It's available through all good booksellers, and I'll leave a link to it in the show notes. In this book, he analyses many people through their birth dates by using numerology, which you may already be familiar with. The book describes 37 parts of life using his precise method of numerology, and it helps you find what your hidden talents are, any core issues that are likely to get in your way, and how to deal with them, and ideal jobs that would suit you on your path. Now, it's not spiritual, or it's not heavily spiritual, it's more everyday, but it can be very enlightening. So if you don't really want to go down a spiritual routine, religion, Wicca type path at the moment, but you are interested in finding out a little bit more about why you're here, see if you can get hold of a copy of this book for your bookshelf, because it's definitely one to read. And it was also updated in 2018. Now, I've got an original copy from the 90s, but the most fascinating thing about Dan Millman's way is I did a few of these for friends, and one of them read his and he went, well, that's no way me. I'm not like that at all, and continued to protest all the way through what he was reading. It was actually correct. I could see it in him, but he couldn't see it in himself. So we discussed it further, and he backed down a little, and it was really insightful. However, it doesn't always work for children. You're not supposed to be able to do anybody under the age of 18. So if you wanted to find out what your kid's pathway is going to be, you're going to have to wait a long time. But it could sort out any conflicts that you have in relationships with your families, with your partner. I find it really fascinating, and it's just kind of on that surface level of opening up your energy fields and making you just think a little bit more and giving you a little bit more of a path to walk down. I could give you a list of spiritual and holistic pathways to walk, but as I said before, my advice is to look for signs that are important to you, things that are jumping out and synchronicities. Perhaps visit a mind, body, spirit event in your area, and as you slowly wander around the stalls, open up your mind and let the energies flow in. Something will catch your eye. It could be a crystal or a tarot card pack, maybe. Talk to stall holders. If you see someone who's perhaps giving Reiki, ask how it can help clear your energy channels. Now, many therapists sometimes give like a mini treatment for a small charge. That's always something that's really quite good to have a go with, to just understand how the energies work. If you have the ability to visit a spiritual site, obviously because this podcast is about the UK, and I appreciate that not everyone listening might be from Britain, but if you have the ability in this country to visit a spiritual site like Avebury or a stone circle near you, perhaps go to Glastonbury and the Chalice Well, then do that too, because although they're not necessary, they're a fantastic way of connecting you to another path. Years ago, I was in Glastonbury and I actually couldn't stop and shop. I had to race through and get home. Not for any other reason, because that was important at home waiting for me. I couldn't stay in Glastonbury. I felt the energies there. They were really quite negative, and I don't know. I suppose it felt very black and very dark. Anyway, when I finally gave it another go a few years later, it had changed completely. The energies were all positive. I felt calm in the shops and I really enjoyed my time there. However, Glastonbury hadn't changed. I had. Something had changed with my personal energy, and I'd actually cleared the fields of energy since my last visit. So that came as quite a surprise to me, because I remember walking through Glastonbury thinking, God, this is awful. I really can't stay here. And I jumped back in the car and I just had to get out. And then I didn't really want to go back. I was kind of thinking, maybe I shouldn't, it didn't work for me. Glastonbury's not my place. And I happened to pop in and everything was okay. Finding your path takes time. Takes time to try something, and if that doesn't work, to move on to something else. Let go of old paths and dogma, be flexible, and in some instances, just try winging it. Just flying by the seat of your pants and thinking, oh, what the heck, I'm going to give this a try. Never be afraid to seek your truth and to find the authentic you. Nurture your soul. It's part of you that knows everything, and it has all the answers that are right for you. At this point in time, now, this very moment. And it's waiting to connect and to show you the path you were born to lead. Don't forget, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Alchemical Serenity. I'm hoping to have a blog coming soon with further information about regression and how you can book an appointment with me if you want to take a step into your past lives. I'm also looking at going deeper into spiritual routines and Wicca, Druidism, crafts in the whole spiritual modalities, crystals, etc. So I'm looking at all of these for future podcasts. So stay with me. I don't know how you're listening to this, whether you're on Spotify or you're on iTunes, but hit the like button or the subscribe button and come and join me. I don't stick to a particular routine. I probably should, of uploading. I tend to record these podcasts at 3:00 in the morning because it is the quietest time in my house and no vehicles are flying past, making a row. So it's not something I can do sort of as a regular date. So it's, if you subscribe, you'll get a notification as to the fact that I've put another podcast up. So don't forget to find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, thank you for listening. Bright blessings, love and light.